Wonderful to have you on the show today, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
There's so many different ways we could approach this interview, especially given what you've just told me offline. But I'd love to begin with the topic of identity, because I followed your work for a couple of years, and I know you started your own coaching business, and then you grew to change other people's businesses, sort of a bit of a marketing perspective and a bit of a coaching perspective. And now you're getting quite a lot of visibility and authority in the field. And so I thought this probably came with a lot of identity shifts. And I was wondering, how did you manage these changes in identity and perspectives? And how did you sort of change and adapt to these different identities?
Yeah, so it was maybe more like whatever I thought. I mean, it's a combination of like whatever I thought success was going to be about. It was about proving something to myself. It was about contributing something to other people. It was about, finding my way and helping other people do the same. Because, there was a point where I really didn't know what it was about to build a business. And then I learned, and it was so exciting to learn that. And then I saw so many other coaches like where I was struggling. So that was very much top of mind back in 2019. And then, yeah, just the joy of sharing those things that's what we love to do as coaches, share all the things that we're learning. So yeah, it was less about, identity wise. I guess it was a little bit like, okay, I have to prove some level of success. There was this running in the background. There was also, I have to save the world. This was also in the background. And of course I want to feel fulfilled in what I do, and proud of what I do. So there's a lot of different dynamics. And the reality is, after you go through all of that, you start to see the illusions of the mind the more that you're examining them. And of course, it's not my job to save the world. That's just an idea somebody gave me along the way that seemed useful because I was looking for more meaning. And I have nothing to prove anyway, so that doesn't matter, because again, I learned through the process, like, there is just nothing to prove here. And if there was, I did it, and so I think for me, it was about making sure I kept asking myself the big questions, like, is this representing me authentically? Am I still stuck in the past somehow? What's front of mind? What's important to me now? How is this whole thing evolving? So you got to kind of keep engaged. And I think there's a potential trap with these journeys that we go on to somehow stay stuck in the idea of 4 or 5 years ago. But that just doesn't work, because that was 4 or 5 years ago, and our ideas, our priorities, everything is always evolving. So I think the main thing for me is just like a process of allowing things to evolve, and not being stuck in decisions from the past. Complicated stuff, really, because it's easy to end up doing this thing over and over and over and over just because you started it. But it doesn't really serve anybody. So I've always tried to keep our business evolving with me. There's certain aspects that has to remain steady, but I'll just have other people come in and do that part, so that I don't need to get bogged down by things that are no longer lighting me up, because that's not fair to anybody. So that, I would say there's like a transition. There's always a transition, because once you kind of organize one thing that's a little bit old and stale, you've got the next thing that's becoming that way as well. So it's a journey.
Yes, it is a journey, and it's also the journey on which you take your clients and you help them to go through those stages and to leave behind their past versions of themselves. And how do you support them in allowing this abundance? Because what I've noticed with it myself and with my clients is that, in spite of us wanting maybe quote unquote success or abundance or fulfillment, there is a huge sort of inner resistance to this. And I'm wondering, how do you help them push past this glass roof ceiling and actually allow this abundance in their life?
Yeah, I mean, it's this resistance from a combination of all sorts of beliefs, decisions, but it's always about the fear of it not working out if they try, the belief they're not worthy of it in the first place. And you know, they might have a particular view of what success looks like to them. I don't really challenge that. I really want to encourage them to find their own way to whatever success is, because that changes with experience as well. You know, it used to always be about being known for me, you know, years and years ago, like being known for something. And now success for me now is more like, you know, just having a fun, light, easy life that's peaceful and simple, right? So, and healed in my heart, free in my mind, having love and taking care of my body. But anyway, for wherever my clients are at, is I want to empower them to get what it is that they want to get, and trust that they'll discover what they need to discover along the way. So it's just helping them examine what's really in the background and helping them start to distinguish these elements and stories of the mind and where they come from. You know, most people are never trained to examine their mind like that. They are brought up thinking that this is what I think and this is what I've decided. It's never even questioned because it's just the way that life is. So I just help them, you know, examine all of those things. And at any time there's a resistance in the air, I can smell it, feel it, taste it, see it. So because I'm really attuned to that, and that's my cleaner leaving, and so they're not, because they haven't learned to really lean in and deal with it. So I pick up on it and I help them start to see it, and that in itself is a skill that they start to learn, because the idea is that one day they can catch these stories, these blocks, these limits for themselves, rather than staying stuck for 6 months or 6 years in some cases. So yeah, just really always reflecting back, letting people know what I can see. There's a lot of trust required to do that effectively. You've got to really trust what you see as a coach, and you've got to, you know, you develop that trust because you saw it for yourself and you went through it for yourself, and you can just spot this thing a mile away. And then helping them develop the courage to ask the big questions or lean into the things that are scary, but ultimately leaving them with some action to take, and then letting them go and take the action, because in the action, whatever it is that's stopping them, it's all an illusion at the end of the day. And in action, they'll see reality. So go and take a bunch of these actions, come back and let me know how it goes. That's pretty much my coaching in a nutshell.
Amazing. I love how you said that was just an illusion. It's true that when you take action, things sort of evaporate, that because you realize the fears aren't founded, or you realize that things are actually easier, or if not easier, different than what you thought they'd be. And that shifts the perspective. I'm also really big on taking action, so I like this proactive approach. I want to come back to what you said after that first question at the beginning of the interview, which was around sort of shifting this idea of success, and how at first you wanted to be maybe successful or visible, and now it's about something else. So I'd be very curious to hear, what's the purpose of life for you?
Yeah, well, for sure. Like, I mean, I spent most of my life working out what I was going to do with it, you know, whether it was like very young, you know, being a professional footballer back in where I came from. That's what you did. You know, you were playing football, you were going to be a pro, then it changed to being an actor, then it was a DJ. You know, it took all of these forms in my younger years. And then when I turned 30, I started to deal with all the things about me that I had never dealt with before, and I really genuinely wanted to share that and contribute. But it was about, like, you know, this is what my life's about, like this like unrelenting sense of purpose that, you know, I felt like, okay, this is a great way to live life, but at the end of the day, it's a little bit over the top, I think. And for what, you know, to leave a legacy, like nobody really cares when you're gone, and you won't know anything about it either. To prove something to the world, yeah, because something inside of you is missing. So there was something inside of me that was missing, that felt like I needed to go and be somebody, or somehow demonstrate to the world, you know, you see, I'm capable, right? Because inside I some part of me didn't believe that I was. So so that was success for me, was to be accomplished, really, and to be known for being accomplished. But I didn't want to be accomplished for in any reason, you know. I wanted to be accomplished in some way that was respectful and useful to the world, which is why I chose this route rather than being known for being the guy that's got, you know, who's really figured out stocks and shares. You know, like that stuff was never of interest. So I somehow managed to kind of find this balance of like, okay, I am fulfilling some lack, but at least I'm doing it in a way that's useful, and I helped a lot of people along the way. And then at some point I realized like, okay, it's just all, again, it's just all untrue, all illusions. None of this is real. There's nothing, there's no lack to fill. It was all in my head, and you know, just chill the hell out, you know, just relax. So then I gave up this whole idea of trying to save the world. And my priorities and what I believed success to be like started to really change rapidly. And I saw that for me, success was about being free in my mind, healed in my heart, and having love for my body. And that's not like, oh, I had body image issues. No, it's like I want to take care so that I have, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong if you do, a lot of people do, but it's not that kind of love, although it's connected to that, but it's more like take care of your body. Because when you're on a mission to save the world, like there's no time to take care of your body. You're too busy on this mission saving the world. And I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that, like working too hard, working too much for what? You know, to prove something or to have money because other people think you're somehow, I don't know, something, you know, special. So yeah, so I let all of that go, and it was more like, no, it's having this freedom, this peace, this healing, this taking care of my body, and essentially just having more fun in life. And that was the kind of bottom line. Like one day I was in a deep process, and it's like, it's just life's just about enjoying, actually. It's not about saving and missions and all that. For me, you know, this is my having been the guy that was out there doing those things. Like, no, it's about having fun, actually. It's about having loads of fun and healthy, productive ways and enjoying it while we're here. So that's kind of my not only my definition of success, but it's like what I think the whole point is. And people might say, oh no, it's about evolution. I can tell you I've been evolving intensely for 13 years, more than most people. I worked on myself every day, and I'll never stop. But even that became tiring. Evolution, constantly evolving. It's like, no, you know, it's not, I got to a point in my evolution, the evolution was to chill out and stop evolving in this way with this relentless attitude, you know? So that in itself is of course an evolution. So I'm not saying evolution is bad, but you get what I'm saying. You know, it's not for, especially for coaches. You know, we can get really caught up in the hype around it, but we get to the points that we get to when we're ready to get to that point. And for me, it was about relax, take it easy, and make sure that you've got a balance in your life. It's healthy, it's active, you're having a lot of fun. Yes, you are up to something, but it's not up to something that's taking over.
It makes me think of one of the recent episodes I did on why personal development leads to spirituality. And I think it's exactly what you said. It's great to evolve, it's great to learn, it's great to improve. But there comes a point where you realize that actually being at peace, being fulfilled, having joy, enjoying your life also has quite a high place of importance.
Yeah.
And if you're too focused on growth, which also means focused on what's missing or what could be improved or tweaked or changed, it can make it harder to actually be grateful for what you already have. So it's a balance. I still love personal improvement, but you know, balanced out.
It's a balance. And look, you will, if you're out there and you're listening, you're like, no, but I need to deal with. Okay, go and deal with that. You know, it's okay. Everybody's in their own process. I'm just sharing what I went through. And you know, if people are like, oh, I want to get to that place where I can just relax, okay, well, do whatever you think you need to do next, and it will come. You know, for me, it was 13 years of intense, deep work. Maybe for other people, it'll be 3 years or 6 months. Maybe smarter people don't need to go through what I had to go through. Maybe people go through it for longer. It doesn't matter. You know, we've all got our journey. We came from where we came from, and it's all very unique to us. And that's another thing I learned. Like, you know, just don't listen to anybody, really. Don't even listen to me. Make up your own mind about things. You know, if they tell you you should start work at 9, don't listen. You know, start work when you want. If they say you should wake up at 4:30 because that's the most productive. Don't listen. Like, when do you want to wake up? Like, what do you want to eat? What feels good for your body? Don't listen to other people. That's just their opinions. And unless it's like scientific research and you can take the case, okay, use that to inform your decision. But at the end of the day, make up your own mind.
Well said. I'd love to hear more about this meditation process. You mentioned a bit off air that you have this quite deep process, one of your pillars around meditation that you also take your clients through. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah. So yes, there's a method of, you could say it's meditation that I discovered for myself and I now teach. I give it a different name because it's just not anything that was ever shown to me. It was nothing I've read about. It was kind of somehow connected to different methods and ways. But I've done a lot of meditation, done a lot of different courses and training, read a lot of different books, because there's meditation, various forms. Then there's contemplation, where you're kind of asking questions and going deep inside. And anyway, I'd been in a relationship that was one of those kind of the worst before it gets better type relationships. It was the last one I kind of had to go through before I could find a more healing relationship. And it was very toxic. There was a lot of stuff I had to heal after the relationship. And I just sat for 5 days after it ended and literally closed my eyes and processed and dealt with everything for 5 days, sitting on the sofa over there. And what I found was, the deeper I went into all the pain, the deeper I went into all the suffering, the anxiety, the attachment, the fear, the resentment, like the deeper I went into every one of those emotions that was leaving me feeling all messed up or in pain, the more I healed. And it was amazing because I learned that there was so much of myself I wasn't really deeply connected to. There was so much of my own feelings I would kind of feel, but then I would skip over, or I would numb out or ignore. So I really paid attention to the subtleties of all my emotions, plus the ones that were really scary to feel. And I just felt all of them. And it was like, I went to the bottom, like the corners of my emotional self. And the releasing that happened over these 5 days was, you can't really describe it, but it was wild, I would say, is the best description of this kind of releasing. And then I just felt really complete with everything very fast, because I had released it and processed it. And then I started to really pay attention to the subtleties of my emotions day by day. And again, rather than, okay, let's flip the story in my mind, let's go and take an action, I would actually close my eyes and I would go into those feelings. So I learned to really go deep into the emotions in a way that I had never experienced. Nobody had ever suggested or showed me before. It seemed really, really new. I know it won't be for some people, but for me and a lot of people, this is radical, because most people are numb, and the rest are most of the rest are very unaware of their true emotions. There's a small percentage of people that really know how to deeply connect with it. So I started sharing this with my clients, coaching them in this way I was taking myself. And then I found that in the body, there was all this wisdom. The body was constantly trying to tell us something, that these deeper emotions. And this is where we tap into this wisdom. So I've been sharing that and teaching that ever since, which has been, best part of a year and a half. And it is the most profound coaching style I've ever experienced and coached people through. And I've been doing this for a long time. So that's the overview of it. And but it's really beautiful, because you get to really, really deeply connect yourself, and you get to heal yourself. And it's simple. And the thing about it is, like, when we pop out, feeling is very natural, expression is very natural. But then, of course, we learn that these feelings are too painful, so I'll turn them off. People will say I shouldn't cry, so I'll turn them off. The kids laughed at school, turn them off. So all through childhood, we were just turning off our capacity to really feel. And then we ended up just with our mind, and we're all stuck up, in our head, which is where the world is now. The world is just in its head, because we learned not to feel, and because it was scary. So it was like a real return to the beginning, where feeling was natural, like breathing.
This is fascinating, and it reminds me of one of the core aspects I work with. So I work a lot with focus, hence my company, the Focus Bee. And what I've noticed time and time again is that people go towards distractions because they're trying to numb their feelings. Therefore, it really led me directly to exactly what you're saying, which is helping people to understand, notice, observe, accept, process their emotions. And then guess what? They don't, check social media or YouTube or their emails because they've processed that frustration or that impatience or that anger. And I think nowadays it's really what you're saying. People are in their head and they've forgotten how to do that. And this is why there's so much phone addiction amongst many, many other things, and Netflix and all the rest. And so I feel that reconnecting with your emotions, noticing them and being able to process them is fundamental. So I love what you said about going deeply in them. But I'm wondering, do you also have practices where you do this through the body, whether it's breath work or yoga or running or exercise? Because I also find it's good to observe, let go, maybe sort of deep meditation, breathing, but also using your body to process emotions. I'm wondering how you do that.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to say about what you shared. So so along the way, a lot of people forgot how to feel, but what happened for most of us, they got hurt too much, and it was so painful. And as a child, they didn't know how to process that. So this is where it happened. It's like, so we don't like pain. That's why most people are popping pills left, right, and center to avoid feeling pain. But I found pain was the access to a lot of clarity, because through the suffering is healing. So there's a lot of compassion I have for those kids that didn't get the love from their mother or their father or one or the other, and then at some point they just become completely numb to themselves. And I wasn't one of them, but in my adult life I could really resonate, because certain experiences, you're like, okay, this hurts. I'm feeling dead. Now I know what a lot of people went through their whole life. So regarding what you said, so I in my personal practice, it's very, very simply sitting and meditating. I do a lot of yin yoga. I do some breath work experiences. I also do various plant medicines. I somehow combine all of them together in various ways. But they're more like the kind of, I'll do those less regularly. But my daily practice is 2, 3, 4 times a day is basically just sitting. I'll always put on some music, usually use my headphones just so I can feel like I'm really shutting out the world. Or I'll be in nature by the river or on the sea. We have a beach right in front of us. So I'll usually just meditate and sit with my eyes closed, keep it really simple. And another thing that happens, but this is really, really natural, is very often there'll be shaking. So if you ever look in the wild, if a deer gets chased by a lion and manages to get away, it's traumatized and it naturally starts to shake. And we've all had the shakes when something happens, maybe when we get cold or something like that. But shaking is a natural way that the body releases stress, and animals do it without thinking. Humans stopped doing that because it looked weird, right? So, and I only know this because I started shaking and I was like, whoa, this feels really natural. How come nobody's shared this before? And then I Googled and I started to do some research. So in my meditation, when I'm releasing and getting in touch with this deep emotions, like shaking will usually start at some part of my body. And it'll be like, if it was my heart, if it was heart, the shaking will always be around that. If it's certain parts of my body that the pain was stored, then these parts are shaking. So it's like this is a very natural release of the stress that gets built up. I don't know too much of the science. I'm not a biochemist or a biohacker, but I don't really need to know the science to know that it's some good shit.
Yes, it's true. The shaking, and it also made me think when you were saying going through the pain, and I was smiling and nodding. It's because I'm really big on cold showers and ice. Well, not exactly ice bath, but cold dips. I'm in Sweden. Water gets cold. And going through that pain, especially when it's physical, really helps with mental stress during the day. And then I was also thinking when you were saying the shaking, After one particularly cold ice dip, I was really shaking and thinking, oh, I have to stop the shaking. Why am I shaking? But it's good. It's the body releasing and it's the body warming up. So
exactly. Anything the body's doing, you know, we got to learn to let it do it. Even when there's a fever, you know, when we have a fever, we take a pill to stop the fever. It's crazy. You know, the body's trying to deal with the body. See, the body is so intelligent, way more intelligent than our minds, really. And our minds keep getting in the way, and that's why, you know, certain conditions are starting to get created in the body. The body knows what it needs to do. Just if we would stop interfering with it and give it a chance to do it, but we're too busy messing with it.
Yes, and I've definitely seen that as I evolved in my coaching practice. At first, when someone was struggling to make a decision, we'd sort of outlay the pros and cons and different approach. It was very mind focused. And then with time, it was just sort of close your eyes, project yourself in one case. How do you feel? Project yourself in the other case. How do you feel? Oh, well, one felt really light, one felt heavy. Okay, you know the answer.
That reminds me of a little a thing I sometimes do with myself or clients. Is like a, you know, okay, this one's an evolution because I used to do like a truth test with people. But the other day I was sitting in a restaurant with my girlfriend, and I said, look, I had this idea and it came to me and I want to show you. It's really, really cool. I'm just going to say a word and you'll just say yes or no without even thinking about it. And I was like, yoga, yes. Dancing, yes. Cleaning, no. You know, and it's like we have a natural intuition about what we want to do or not. But the minute we start to overthink it, we get all messed up. So then I asked her some harder questions about stuff she had been dealing with. I won't share much about it, but, you know, I got her in the flow of yes, no, and then I put something hard that she was really struggling, and it was like straight yes, straight no, you know, so it was really, really powerful, really powerful.
I love that. And I actually did once a mini exercise in my head. I remember I was on the train and I was just thinking of certain words, random words, sunshine, flower, illness, and I was starting to feel how it feels in the body. And I was thinking, this is crazy. One word and I feel open and light and joyful. Another word, I feel heavy. And I was feeling sort of energetically each word. So it's very similar to what you're saying.
Definitely. Exactly.
Yeah. We know instinctively if we manage to sort of put the mind away.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we're approaching our half an hour end of podcast. This has flown by. We've gone through so many topics from identity, purpose, meditation practices, the wisdom of the body. What would you like to leave the listeners and viewers with? What would be your last note to finish on?
Let me check. I would say trust the process and have more fun.
I love that. Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show, Ryan. It's been a real joy. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.